our gifted students do get kind of pushed to the side and aren't challenged as much because we're too busy trying to get everyone else up to standards and having standards met. So students that exceed the standards, we tend to just let go and do it, have them go along with the curriculum that we're teaching, but not really challenge them in any way, shape, or form. Now, my experience with gifted students is I have seen where teachers assign them an extra paper and call that kind of the challenge, and there seems to be a lot of backlash from that from students because it's not really tailored to their interest or anything like that. Excuse me, it's just simply busy work as they see it. So in an article by Jana Sosnowitzki, she identified 4 traits that were really crucial to ability grouping having a positive impact. And the first was the means of modifying the curriculum. So how the instructor could modify the curriculum and in what way they did. Another one was maintaining flexible grouping, so the ability to move in and out of groups as appropriate and as needed. The third was using multiple means of assessment prior to placement. So this is getting more of a whole picture of a student before you simply stick them in a group and discover later that it doesn't work. And the last one is the single subject grouping. So you group based on math ability, based on science ability. As one of the students in that myth video pointed out, while he had trouble with reading and writing, he excelled in math. And so I think that is really important that we individualize the ability grouping per subject. While we have students that are stronger in one area, they may struggle in another. My personal experience with ability grouping revolves around our reading program. We currently are using Reading Mastery in all classes, kindergarten and first, and then this year we're actually expanding kindergarten through third, and all reading classes are going to be taught that way. So in looking at that, our first year we simply had 3 groups to move the students in and out of, and it was really difficult. This last year, because we had so many different options of where to put students, we would meet on a regular basis and discuss students that were really passing all of the checkouts or excelling, or students we thought were maybe a little bored with the current curriculum or the current materials, and we discussed moving them up a group or moving them down a group. And we actually saw students, I'm sure none of you have this experience with students that maybe haven't read over the summer, so they've lost and they've regressed a lot of the skills that they learned the last year. And so we had a lot of students come in that scored really low, but once they got back into reading and back into kind of the swing of school, really excelled. And so we had one student that actually moved 5 groups from where he started at the beginning of the year to he was the high first grade reading group. So it's pretty cool to see, and I think that students really benefit from this kind of grouping in certain aspects because it allows the teacher to go at the pace of the students, yet differentiate and address concerns. We also had the benefit of them being smaller groups. So each group was broken down into about a maximum, I believe, anywhere between 6 to 8 kids. So there are no more than 8 kids in any given group. And so a lot of times teachers would be teaching 2 or 3 groups, and so you'd be doing the book work and then switch them out and they would do independent while you were teaching another group. There was a lot of hesitation and resistance towards this setup, but it actually ended up working quite well, and students really benefited from it and were reading more than they have in past curriculums. That being said, I've also seen ability grouping in 6th grade when it comes to math and science. Unfortunately, because of the scheduling, the students were together the whole time. So if you struggled in math, then you were in the low math group, the low English group, and the low science group. And so I saw some frustration from students in this because while they may struggle in one area, another area was easier for them. As far as the social impacts of ability grouping, I do think that we need to balance ability grouping with with the grouping of students that are advanced, intermediate, and early learners in certain subjects. So I do think that we need to balance the two, because I think there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of skill growth for students when they're working in groups, and specifically in groups that may not all be the same ability. So there's kind of that opportunity for peer mentoring and that kind of thing. I have seen another instance where ability grouping was really a success in our 6th grade science and our 6th grade science fair. The science teacher had decided she was going to group by ability, and in the past she has not done this. She's grouped by an advanced, an intermediate, and an early learner in the subjects, and in the past has really dealt with frustration and one member taking on most of the responsibilities of the paper and not everyone being able to speak to the purpose and the scientific method behind what they did. And so she really tried a different approach this year and tried to go for ability grouping. And I was able to judge both fairs, and it was really remarkable the difference that I could see between last year and this year. Last year there was typically one member of the group that would do all of the talking while the other two would just kind of stand there. And this year I witnessed equal input from each student. Each student was able to talk about their experiment and why they chose their experiment, and it was really interesting to see the different levels of experiments. But all the students were excited, all the students were enthusiastic, and it was really pretty cool to watch. So I think ability grouping and other groupings all have their place. I think it's just really finding that balance. As far as tracking, I think that ability grouping is the way to go, as opposed to tracking and one student staying on the same path the entire time. But I think, just like in everything with education, it's all about striking the balance.